Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Fitz on TV here, AKG Lauren 33. I am back here today with a special episode of the Legit Shoot podcast. Usually, the Legit Shoot podcast is only for wrestling, but today and for today only, we're gonna switch things up. We're gonna be talking about Marvel Studios and the MCU, and this will be a full, in-depth review slash reaction of Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't make as many MCU videos as I used to, but I have done a couple videos when it pertains to Spider-Man No Way Home, and definitely, man, I have just been ever since I saw the film a couple hours ago. I just have so many thoughts, and I just didn't want to waste any time getting them to you guys. I saw the film tonight with a bunch of my friends. I saw it at about 8:30, and right now it is almost 2:30 a.m. here on the East Coast. So it's been about 6 hours since I saw it. Well, technically more like 4.5 hours or 3.5 hours. Since the movie started around 8:30, but it's been on my mind ever since I left the theater. And first things first, I want to say this will have spoilers. I put it in the title. So if you guys clicked on the video, I don't really care. You should know that this thing's gonna have spoilers, right? So I don't want to hear someone in the comment section saying, "Oh, the photo you have in the thumbnail, or it when you click the video, it's a spoiler." Well, the title says spoilers, right? And I'm gonna be honest, unless you're a total like nobody, everyone knew that it was the biggest uh it was the biggest secret that Marvel Studios wouldn't reveal, but everyone knew was happening. That Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield would be appearing in this film with their versions of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So it's not it's really shouldn't be much of a surprise to anybody, unless you've never seen a Spider-Man film and you know absolutely nothing about the character and its role in live action movies. But anyway, that's like I said, this is your, I guess if you want this to be a spoiler warning, if you don't want to be spoiled for the film, even though I don't know why you would click on this video if you didn't want to be spoiled, I suggest you click off the video right now, because we're going to be talking spoilers throughout this entire video. And right away, I will say this is easily, no doubt about it, this is the greatest Spider-Man film ever created. Live action, animated, I don't care. I think it surpasses Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This movie is absolutely incredible. And without even thinking about it, it's already in my top 3 MCU films of all time. And right now I am debating whether or not it should be uh higher than Infinity War. For me, it doesn't surpass Avengers Endgame just because of what Avengers Endgame did and wrapping up, the first 10 years of MCU films, right? Especially with all the characters, But I am debating whether No Way Home is better than Avengers Infinity War. It was hard enough for me to put it past Black Panther and Civil War, which were the other two films in my top 5. But it's either second or third. I'm having a hard time deciding on it, but I am gonna see the film again this weekend in 4D. So hopefully by then I'll be able to make a decision on that. But it's not number one, but it's either number 2 or number 3. This film is absolutely incredible. It's not just a great MCU film. It's not just a great Spider-Man film. It's a fantastic Peter Parker story. Like, this tells a complete Peter Parker story, man. Like, they really go ham on the character, how he wants to do the right thing and what it means to be Spider-Man and do what is truly right. This movie does it. And oh my gosh. I've also been debating, who's the best live action Spider-Man, right? It was for me after, I would say, Far From Home. I would give the slight edge to Tobey Maguire with Tom Holland right there. But I can say this with confidence: Tom Holland, to me, has surpassed Tobey Maguire as the greatest live action Spider-Man. I gotta give it to him. Tom Holland in this film is absolutely incredible. His acting is on another level, and I hope he gets nominated, for some awards, man. I know Tom Holland has talked about how he kind of wants to take a little bit of a break from acting, right? Because he has the Uncharted movie coming out, and No Way Home, and I know he's been working his ass off, as of late. But uh the guy has, just to see how much he's grown as an actor just through these films, right? From his debut in Civil War, going to the three Homecoming films, the two Avengers film, and then with this film with No Way Home, he's grown so much. And he understands what the character of Peter Parker is supposed to be. He truly does understand what that character means. And in this film, he is absolutely incredible. Incredible job by Tom Holland. There's not enough good things that I can say about him. He is fantastic in this movie. There's so many things, man. The soundtrack is incredible. Like, I can't wait to go on Spotify on Friday and to find the No Way Home official soundtrack there, man. There's so many great tracks. And even though they play the main MCU Spider-Man films a lot throughout the movie, like whenever he's fighting Doctor Strange or Doc Ock or in the final battle, right? Or even at the end of the film, every time they play the Spider-Man MCU film, no matter if it's in a sad moment, a happy moment, an emotional moment, right, a comedic moment, it just works so well. It's so well. The soundtrack for this film is incredible, especially like near the end, when they have the orchestra behind the Spider-Man MCU track. It's just great. The soundtrack here, it's up there with Avengers Endgame is soundtrack. Really. Definitely I think people are gonna have conversations whether this soundtrack has the best soundtrack of an MCU film or even just a superhero film, man. Like a fantastic soundtrack for this film. The plot is great, which we'll get into in just a sec. I love the plot. The villains are incredible. William Defoe and uh I forget the name who Doctor Alfred M, I believe. Those two, they take the cake. Really, they were the ones that stood out when it came to the villains. All the villains are great, right? Lizard's great, great. Sandman, Jamie Foxx's Electro, they're all great. But I just got to give the edge. Just got to give the edge to uh what's his name? I'm forgetting. William Defoe's Green Goblin and Alfred's Doc Ock. Those two really stood out. Uh, MJ, Ned, especially MJ. Just like I was having conflict deciding who was the best live action Spider Man between Toby and Tom Holland. I was having the same thing when it came to MJ. Kristen Dunst's MJ. I loved her. But I gotta say, Zendaya in this movie is incredible, and she is incredible. Her chemistry with Tom Holland. I know they're dating in real life, but yeah, and that the way that chemistry transitions over to the big screen, it's fantastic. Zendaya as MJ in this film is fantastic, and with the way this film ends, I don't know if Zendaya will be returning to play MJ, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But if she's done a great job playing MJ in these last three movies. Really done a great job. Ned was great providing that comedic relief in so many different places. Because remember, this movie does take some dark turns and it's a very emotional story. So the fact of having Ned in there was really well done. Then you have Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch. He is great in this film. He kind of serves a little bit as the Tony Stark, what Tony Stark was for Tom Holland's Spider Man for the first two films and the Avengers films, but it's different, right? The relationship that Doctor Strange and Peter have in this film, it's different, of course, from the Iron Man relationship, but still, Benedict Cumberbatch is still great. He is fantastic. Wong was there a little bit. He was good for the scenes he was in. Aunt May, Maria playing Aunt May, she is great. For she doesn't have a huge role in the first couple films in No Way Home and Far From Home. I mean, not No Way Home, Homecoming and Far From Home, but she plays a big role for Peter in this film, and she has easily the probably the best line of the film. We finally get the line we've been waiting for the first three films, and when Aunt May delivers it here, it is impactful. Aunt May was fantastic, fantastic, and Happy Hogan, man, John Favreau, he was really well. It's like all the characters, really, the big characters, Ned, MJ, Happy Hogan, Aunt May, the ones that have played a pivotal role in Tom Holland's Peter Parker throughout the first three films. In this film, they all get like mini character arcs, and they're all fantastic, all of them. Now, let's get to the big three. I already talked about how great Tom Holland is. This is one of the best. This is one of the best performances by a main protagonist in a superhero film ever. We talk about how great Tobey Maguire is in Spider-Man 2, right? This when and you could talk about Robert Downey Jr.'s performance as Iron Man in Iron Man 1, right? You could say Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa in Black Panther, right? Those are some of the performances we think of. Gal Gadot in the first Wonder Woman, Christian Bale in you what you could take your pick any of the Batman movies, right? Uh, you think about it, Tom Holland's Tom Holland's Peter Parker in this film. It's gonna go down as one of the best main protagonist roles in a superhero movie ever. He's that great in this movie. And then Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man here. Those two are fantastic. Fantastic. I think Andrew Garfield here is better in this film than he was in the first two Amazing Spider-Mans. I went back and I watched every single live action Spider-Man film before this one in preparation. And you know, the Amazing Spider-Man movies, they're not the best live action Spider-Man movies in my opinion. I just felt like the plot could have been better. It wasn't Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield's actually really great as Spider-Man. You know, it's just the plot of those movies could have been better in my opinion. Tobey Maguire, he is fantastic as that OG Spider-Man. He plays that OG, like, the big brother role to Andrew and Tom Holland in this film, and he does a great job of it. He has a little bit of an older look, right? He looks a little bit older than he did since, it's been, 15, 20 years since he first played Peter Parker. Andrew has he packs such of an emotional punch here. He is fantastic, fantastic, and uh, of course, I've already talked enough about Tom Holland, but all three of them, their chemistry in this film, since they've never been on screen together before this, but their chemistry together, they bounce off each other so well, especially Andrew and Toby. Andrew and Toby, man, their interactions are probably my favorite ones when it comes to the three Peters. But so well. The action is absolutely insane, just like we expected it, right? Especially some of the hand-to-hand combat that we see between Tom Holland's Peter, and Green Goblin near the end. Really, really great stuff. They went above and beyond. Like, there's not enough good things that I can say about how this movie was. I know some people are gonna say this is a perfect film. It's pretty close to that. I love to say Avengers Endgame was probably the closest thing I've seen to a perfect movie. But Spider-Man No Way Home is in that conversation. It really is. This film is absolutely incredible, and everybody that worked on it. Oh, so much good stuff. So I want to get into the plot now, right? And like I said, this is a pretty long film. It's 2.5 hours. I'm gonna do my best to go through most of the plot and everything that hit me. But there's just so much. There's just so much in this film. It can be a little difficult, but I'm gonna do my best, right? But we gotta start from the beginning. Right away, this movie picks up where Far From Home leaves off. It starts right away, like right after. And I wonder if they filmed the beginning of this film when they were filming Far From Home, because legit it picks up right after Jonah J. Jameson reveals Peter Parker's identity, right? And you get to see how shocked Peter is and how he picks up MJ right away, and they're filming or they're swinging through the city, right, trying to get away from everybody. And I also wonder, how do you film those swinging scenes with Zendaya? Because most of the time, usually when it's swinging, of course, it's CGI. But you get to see Zendaya's face reactions as they're doing the swinging. So I'm really hoping we get to see how they did that with the behind the scenes, because I don't usually pick up Blu-rays for film, but I might actually have to pick up this Blu-ray just for the behind the scenes. There's just so much great stuff. It's so much behind the scenes stuff that I want to see, and I hope that we get it. But anyway, after that, man, I love the action here. We see them. They get back to Peter's apartment, and we see that Happy Hogan and Aunt May, they're breaking up. The Happy, this he was really invested in this relationship, and to Aunt May, it was more like a spling fling. Like, it was fun while it lasted, but she doesn't want to go any deeper, right? But then, right at that moment, Peter arrives, and then we see Aunt May and Happy. They go into Peter's room, and they're like, "What's going on?" And it actually looks like Peter and MJ were about to have sex, right? Because they see Peter's pants is down, he's changing his shirt, So you get this funny scene of Peter trying to explain to them, like, no, right? And man, Tom Holland's jacked. He is jacked. Like, I don't know. I want to know what kind of training regimen he's doing, because me and Tom Holland are about the same height. So I really want to see what kind of workouts this guy been doing, because he is absolutely jacked. That's not CGI. You could tell Tom Holland's been in the gym going at it, especially when he has those other roles like Uncharted, right? He is absolutely built. You don't notice it as much when he's wearing the suit, but when he's like shirtless or wearing like just a t-shirt, you notice how jacked he is. He is jacked. So anyway, we see then Happy Hogan and uh, Aunt May. They find out, they figured out that there's helicopters around their apartment, and they figure out that Peter's identity has been revealed, right? And then we get to see basically the effect that Peter's identity is, how it impacts his life, right? And I really enjoyed this, because this, like I said, this is the first time in cinematic history that we've ever seen Peter Parker's identity be revealed. So it's really cool to see how Peter's navigating it. And we see him get brought in. He's questioned for Mysterio, but then we get Charlie Conk's Daredevil, right? Being Peter's lawyer, and that was awesome. There was someone throws a brick into Peter's and Aunt May's apartment, and we see Daredevil catch it, and then Peter's like, "Whoa, how do you do that? How did you do that?" Right? Because no normal person would have seen that coming, but clearly, no one knows that Charlie Cox is Daredevil. We just think he's a normal lawyer, and I love how he just says, "I'm a really good lawyer." So the whole, Peter being framed for murder, they figured it out pretty, they solved that pretty quick, right? So Peter doesn't have to have that, have that over his head as he enters his senior year. But there's still some people that believe he is a murderer. There's a lot of people that don't think he's a murderer, but he does get his legal troubles, all figured out. But then we get to see Peter and MJ, them start their first day of school, right? and then everywhere Peter's going, there's cameras. I love how Peter's teachers, I forget their names, but remember the teachers, they were the chaperones on the school trip in Far From Home, right? It's funny how they have like a little they have a whole trophy case of mementos of Peter's Spider-Man. So really cool stuff, man. There's lots of cool Easter eggs from Homecoming and Far From Home and all the characters. Remember, the teachers don't. That This was really the only scene of the movie they show up in. They're not. This movie is not about the school or anything like that. But Peter quickly gets used to school life. He gets pretty used to people knowing his identity, and it doesn't really affect him until they get to MIT. So the whole plan is, Peter, MJ, and Zendaya. They're three best friends, and of course Peter's dating MJ. And like I said, Zendaya and Tom Holland, their chemistry, it's really cool that they're dating in real life and, their characters are dating in this movie because you could see the chemistry. Bounce off each other so well. And even Ned, when Ned's there and they're not doing the romantic scenes. But their chemistry works out so well. And we see that they're trying to get into MIT together, right? But they don't get in. None of them get in, and a big reason for that is because of the drama of them being connected to Peter Parker and him being Spider-Man. And that's what the big thing is. We see Peter actually he gets used to people knowing his identity. It's not a big deal. It doesn't become a big deal until they get the letters of them not getting accepted to MIT, because you can see them being connected to him is having a big impact on their futures, right? And even though they want to be together in the future, it's disappointing to them because Ned and MJ are both really, really smart, and Peter's smart too, but Ned and MJ are really smart, and because of their relationship to Peter, right, uh, it's affecting their future. But we see then Peter wants to change that. So Peter goes over to Doctor Strange, and of course those two still have great chemistry back from Infinity War. And we learned that Wong is now the Sorcerer Supreme because Wong didn't die in Infinity War. He wasn't blipped, but while we know that Doctor Strange was. So during those 5 years that Doctor Strange was gone, Wong became the Sorcerer Supreme. So it's pretty cool to see Wong giving Doctor Strange orders, right? But still, of course, Doctor Strange is just as strong as ever. Nothing's really changed. But we learned that we get that classic trailer misdirection. Classic Marvel Studios. Usually based off the trailers, it was weird to think that Peter wanted to go through with the spell, but it was actually at first Peter's first request was that they go back in time, before Mysterio, and making that Mysterio could never reveal Peter's identity. So Peter at first, it wasn't Peter's idea to come up with the spell. He actually wanted to go back in time, but Doctor Strange says, "Oh, I don't have the time stone anymore. I can't do that, unfortunately." Uh, but it's then that Doctor Strange figures out maybe I can cast a spell that makes everyone forget that you're Peter Parker, and then Wong, of course, is against it. But then Doctor Strange is able to convince Wong that he can get it done. More misdirection from the trailer because in the trailer, Doctor Strange winks at Peter like, and I'm gonna do the spell behind Wong's back. But in the movie, Doctor Strange tells Wong he's gonna do it. Wong kind of gives the blessing. Wong just says, "Oh, I'm not here." So whatever, if you choose to do that film, hey, I'm not here. I have nothing to do with this. So they go down, and remember in the trailers, Peter was like, Peter wants to make sure that other people, or at least like MJ and Ned know. And for the most part, Doctor Strange is still able to do the spell with the people closest to Peter knowing. that he's still Spider-Man. But it becomes a little more wacky as time goes on, and because Peter keeps talking throughout the spell, and then eventually the spell, just gets too contained, and they're not able to contain it. Doctor Strange can't contain it, you know. So because of that, that's when everything gets messed up, right? So what? There's a funny scene here where Doctor Strange gets very angry at Peter because Peter, he didn't call the school. He didn't try to plead his case and why he should be accepted along along with Ned and MJ. So Doctor Strange's like, what? You didn't get accepted, but you didn't call to plead your case, right? So, and then Doctor Strange throws Peter out of the sanctum, and then that's when the movie starts picking up because we see Peter in a nice little suit. He tries to find this lady and try to convince them or convince her to give him and his friends another chance at MIT. And the thing is, Peter wasn't even focused on him. He was more just focused on getting Ned and MJ a second shot at MIT, right? But this is where everything picks up. We see that on the bridge, all of a sudden, Peter's uh, his spidey sense comes in, or the Peter tingle, like everyone else likes to call it. So we see that comes into play, and that's when everything goes crazy. There's so many cool like little close-ups. The camera work here is absolutely incredible. There's so many like little close-ups of uh, of Peter of Peter just reacting with his spidey sense. I love it. You can really see it's come a long way because remember back when we first meet him, he doesn't really know how to use his spidey sense that well. But now he reacts to the point where it plays a major role in the film. So afterwards, right after, or all of a sudden we see Doctor Doc Ock show up on the bridge, and this is great. I love it. I love it. So Doc Ock shows up on the bridge, and Peter of course doesn't recognize him, but Doc Ock thinks that Tom Holland's Peter is the Peter from his universe, right? Tobey Maguire, and then we get this epic uh, battle on the bridge. I love it, man. And it's crazy how quick they made Tom Holland's Peter Parker. Like he is quick. Doc Ock is throwing stuff at him from left and right, and Peter's just dodging them all. It's really great stuff. And we're getting a nice little banter. When Peter starts using the arms from the Iron Spider, Doc Ock is like, looks like we have competition, right? And remember, this is a Doc Ock from right before he dies in Spider-Man 2. So, he still has the tentacles controlling him, so he's not himself, right? And he wants his machine. Like, where's the machine that gives me the power of the sun? And of course, Tom Holland doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So really good stuff here, really great stuff here. So eventually, right? If you guys remember in the trailer, Doc Ock is able to pin Peter Parker to a pillar. He's able to pin to a pillar, and he's about to kill Peter Parker, right? But at that moment, right, and I really love how Doc Ock he recognizes the technology. He's like, "Ooh, nanotech, damn, Peter, you're outdoing yourself." But at that moment, we see right when he's about to kill him, he's like, "You're not Peter Parker." Right? And Peter's like, I'm so confused right now. Really cool stuff. And then Peter grabs the Peter on his suit, right? Remember, it has the Stark Tech capabilities and everything like that. He goes to his suit, and he's actually able, because of the nanotech technology, he's actually able to take control of Doc Ock's tentacles. Right, so we get this really cool scene of Peter outsmarting Doc Ock. I love it, and he's controlling the tentacles, and he's able to free himself, and he's able to save the MIT executive whose car was dangling over right over the railway, the train track. So he's able to save the MIT exec, who then calls Peter a hero, right? And then Peter's like, no, Peter's being humble about it. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to talk to the execs and see if I can give you guys a fair shot at MIT. And Peter's like, really? And, that's humbling. And then, excuse me, I got to take a sip, man. This is unedited, man. I'm trying to do this all in one take. Excuse me. So then we see Pete. Then Peter gets transported back over right at that moment, right? Or no, I'm sorry. After he's taken down Doc Ock, right at that moment you think the battle is over, but Peter's Spidey sense acts up again, and then all of a sudden we see a Goblin bomb, and then William Defoe's Green Goblin shows up. But right before they're about to start fighting, right, right before they're about to start fighting, that's when Peter gets transported back over into Doc Ock's lab, or not Doc Ock's lab, Doctor Strange's lair, and then that's when we see Doc Ock get locked up, and Doctor Strange then is able to explain like, oh, even though I was able to contain the spell, that still kept other villains, right? Some villains from other universes, they come over to this one. And one question I did have coming into this is, oh, why is it that it's only like Peter Parker villains, right, from the other Spider-Man universes coming in? Remember, this is supposed to open up the multiverse. This is where things get crazy. But it's because the spell came was a little bit messed up. It was people. It was other villains that knew who Peter Parker was. So that's how it was only. It was specific to only villains that knew who Peter Parker was because of what the spell did and the spell being messed up. So that's why other villains. So they made it make sense. That's why other villains that from other or only villains that knew, or only villains who knew who Peter Parker was. That's why they were able to come, and not other villains from other universes. Like a second Thanos, or stuff like that, or like Kingpin, or not Kingpin, but you guys get what I'm saying. So I did like how they explained that, but then uh, basically, right, Doctor Strange then is explaining how Peter, you need to fix this. You need to bring back people from other universes. You need to go figure out what other villains are out there so we can send them back, right? And we see that Lizard has already been caught. So Doc Ock and Lizard have been caught, and they're in contains. But Green Goblin's still out there. So all of a sudden, Peter's like, I'm gonna fix this, but I need some help. So that's when we see Zendaya's MJ and Ned come in, and then there's this funny scene of this Ned geeking out. Ned's geeking out because he's in Doctor Strange's sanctum. Really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. And then we get the nice little Scooby Doo this crap. But Doctor Strange said not. He doesn't say Scooby Doo this crap. He said Scooby Doo this shit. So a little more trailer misdirection, a little change in dialogue. Really, really good stuff. All right. And I just love how Zendaya and Ned, even though they don't have powers, they still want to be there for Peter Parker. They don't care how much danger they're in. They just want to be there to help their friend. They want to help the person, Peter, who they love. I really do like that. I really do like that. Because in other universes, right, you have an Amazing Spider-Man, right? Peter wanted to keep Gwen as far away as possible, and in Toby's universe, MJ was always caught in the crossfires. MJ, she in every single movie she gets taken away by the villain. Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Venom. You know, like in every single movie, she was put in danger. You know, so I love how here, we get the differences like people knowing Peter's identity and Peter kind of accepting that at least here in the first half of the film, and then Zendaya and Ned, them wanting to be there for Peter Parker and help him even though they don't have powers of their own and they know how their connection to Spider Man is dangerous. So I really like that. I like that how this Peter has friends on his side that are willing to do anything for him, no matter how dangerous and no matter what the cost. I like that. Zendaya is like, next time you want to go break the universe, tell us first so we can make a plan. That's one of the thousand great examples of how amazing Zendaya is in this film. Great stuff from her. So we see that basically early in the film there was a pedestrian that had thrown like a bunch of like green goo on Peter's suit, right? The black and red, which I don't care what anybody says. I still think that's the best live action Spider-Man suit. All right, I still think that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything like that. I love most of the live action suits, and especially near the end, we get something really special with Tom Holland Spider Man, which I'll talk about when we get there. But I still personally believe that the red and black suit that we saw make its debut in Far From Home, I still think that's the best Spider Man suit. I still think that. But we see that it does get clear or it does get clean later on, but we see Peter doesn't have any other suits available at the moment. So then he reverses it in and out, right? And or he turns it inside out, and we see Doctor Strange gives him like a little magic device, right? So it will allow him to, when he captured multiversal villains, he can just easily send them back. He doesn't have to like carry them back or swing them back. He doesn't have to knock them out unconscious. He just has to grab a hold of them and capture them and send them back over to Doctor Strange's lair, right? So we see he turns his suit inside out. It's now golden black, right? And you can see like some of the little like connections inside the suit, which is really cool. But then Doc Ock is explaining like how the Green Goblin that they fought, how in their universe he's supposed to be dead. He's supposed to be dead. So uh, how it's likely that he's either fighting a ghost or he's fighting a Green Goblin from somewhere else. You know, so we see then Peter goes out into this forest, and the visuals in this movie are just so incredible, man. I love the visuals in this film. We see he goes out to this forest, and this is where he meets up with Sandman. And the Sandman he meets up with, of course, he thinks he's Toby's Spider Man, and he's actually a good guy. He's actually a good guy because remember, Sandman really wasn't ever a bad guy. He more just, got caught in making a couple poor choices because he wanted to get back to his daughter. Uh, so we then see that Peter, Tom Holland's Peter, and Sam, and they team up to go up against Electro, right? Who is like, of course, sucking up all the energy from, or the electricity from the power lines over there. And so we get a really cool, small little battle of Sandman and Peter versus Electro, and they are able to catch him, right? And there's this funny ass scene of Electro talking about, hey, are you? We're not gonna act like I'm not butt ass naked, in front of you guys, right? So then they give him like a construction suit for someone that would work on the power lines, and then they send him back, with everybody else, right? But then Sandman's confused at first. Sandman's confused because when he sees Electro disappear, he's like, "Did you just kill him? Like, what the hell are you doing?" But instead, Peter just sends him back as well to avoid a big fight, right? So now you basically have all five people captured outside of Green Goblin. So then we get, and like I said, Green Goblin and Doc Ock are amazing in this film, but Green Goblin gets a slight edge. He's clearly the one with the full character arc in this film. So, uh, so we then see that Aunt May calls Peter, and he's like, "Oh, one of the villains you're looking for is here at Feast looking for you." So we finally get to see Feast in the MCU, right? Aunt May's running it, and we see Peter run over. Peter runs over, and we see we see Green Goblin. He's sitting there, and I forgot to mention that earlier. He had like destroyed the mask because he was trying to get away from the bad side of his personality. He wanted absolutely nothing to do with it, right? So excuse me, man. Like me talking so much, I gotta keep clearing my throat. Uh, So we then get some really really cool stuff from Aunt May here because Green Goblin, uh, at least the good side of him, he's like confused. He has no idea what happened to him. He doesn't remember getting killed or at least him dying in Spider-Man 1 in Toby's universe. He doesn't remember anything. So he's confused and he's looking for Peter to help him, right? So there's this really cool scene of Aunt May and Peter talking, and Peter at first he's like, "We gotta send the villains home. Like this is not my problem. I don't know these guys. It's not my job to fix what's wrong with them." But then instead, Aunt May is like the moral compass. She's like, "No, no, it's your job to fix this. You have to cure these villains. Are you doing?" And she's like, "Are you doing this for them? Do you think this is the best decision for them, or is this the best decision for you?" And that's like one of the biggest themes of this movie, right? Peter deciding, he has to do more what's best for others instead of what himself. It's like Iron Man's sacrifice in Avengers Endgame. Iron Man didn't have to grab the Infinity Stones. He didn't have to do that. But Doctor Strange told him, like, there's only one outcome where we win this, right? And the only outcome is Iron Man using the Infinity Stones, even though he knew that he couldn't, handle the power, and that, the strain of the Infinity Stones would end up killing him. But Tony makes the ultimate sacrifice to save the entire galaxy from Thanos. And that's the reason why it's the best MCU moment, you know, in my opinion. That's what Peter's having to do here. He has to be Spider Man, and he has to figure out, the decisions that he makes, are they best for him or are they best for everyone else? And it's a huge thing. I absolutely love how Aunt May, helps Peter realize that no, he has to help these guys. This is his job. Whether he likes it or not, he has to do what's right. So he takes Green Goblin back, and it's funny how you'll see William Dafoe just like sneaking donuts from the box while Aunt May and Peter are talking. So they bring him back, and all of a sudden we see all the villains they're talking, and then Doctor Strange, uh, and I forgot to say Doc Ock and Green Goblin have a couple of good conversations in this film. One of the ones they have here is Doc Ock talking about how Green Goblin's supposed to be dead, and Green Goblin's like, What are you talking about?" I you know he's finally then he starts remembering how he was about to almost die, and then all the villains are starting to remember what happened to them. Lizards were starting to remember how he was about to die right after Peter put that cure to keep everybody else from becoming lizards, and Electro remembers how he was about to die in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So they're all remembering how they were about to die. Even Doc Ock is starting to remember how it wasn't Peter that killed him, you know. So then we see Doctor Strange return, and he has this box, and this box becomes a big thing. So the box has the spell in it, and Doctor Strange can, his plan is of course to send all the villains back to where they came from now that they've all been gathered up, and that should bring things back to normal. But then the villains don't want to be back, because they know that if they go back in this state, they will just end up dying because they will be sent back to the moments right before their deaths, right? Outside of Sandman, of course. So then we get like William the First Green Goblin is younger than Peter, like Peter, help us, right? And then Peter's starting to remember what Aunt May said. This is when stuff gets really, really good. Uh, so then after a lot of consideration, Peter tries to tell Doctor Strange like maybe we can save them, right? Because remember, I really like this. The effect of Aunt May's words on Peter. Peter at first was not gonna do it. He was gonna, agree with Doctor Strange to send them home. But Aunt May is helping Peter realize throughout this film what it truly means to be responsible, right? With great power becomes great responsibility. Uh, so then Peter makes the big choice, the tough choice, and he's like, you know, maybe we can cure them. I have to try at least, right? This is my job. And then Doctor Strange disagrees, and then Peter takes the box from him and he makes off. He doesn't get very far, but then Doctor Strange then separates Peter from his physical body, right? Which is a great scene, right? And we see Tom Holland's Peter actually enjoys it. He's like, okay, I'm kind of messing with this a little bit. Okay, let's get back into it. So then Peter makes the choice, thanks to Aunt May, that he's going to try to cure these guys. He's going to try to give them a second chance, right? And then we get that epic fight scene with Doctor Strange, right? And this fight shows how strong Peter is. Because it was in Avengers Infinity War when we learned that Doctor Strange is one of the most powerful Avengers because of his power of magic. His magic was able to go toe to toe with Thanos for a little bit. So this shows how strong Peter is because we see Doctor Strange. He separates Peter from his body, but we see how Peter actually enjoys it. And then like Peter has Ultra Instinct for those of you guys who watch Dragon Ball, because Doctor Strange is trying to steal the box back from Peter's separated body, right? But Peter's Spidey sense, right, is still working even though Peter's separated from his body. So we just see the Spidey suit just still dodging everything, which is awesome. So then Peter swims back to his body and he's like, "That was even as cool as that was. Don't ever do that to me again." So basically, we're seeing Peter overpower Doctor Strange's magic. So then we get all the crazy illusion stuff that we saw in the trailers, right? So Doctor Strange is used in the mirror dimension, uh, just trying to do all these things to get the box back from Peter. We even see Peter get hit by a bus, right? But despite everything, Peter's able to get through it all, and then Peter actually, excuse me, Peter actually, is trying to tell Strange, we gotta try, at least give me a chance. But Doctor Strange is like, you can't change them. You can't. It's their fate, right? And the longer this goes on, the more of a threat it is that all the villains from any universe, we're talking animated into the Spider Verse, all the villains, like Rhino, Kingpin, all of them. The longer this goes on, the more dangerous this becomes for everybody, not just me. Not it's not just the people already here. So we have to end this. The multiverse is a dangerous concept. So we see then that Spider-Man uh, then is able to figure out geometry. He uses geometry to beat Doctor Strange, right? So he's actually able to trap Doctor Strange over the Grand Canyon, and that's crazy. I sat there astonished. I was like, "Holy shit!" And the thing is, me and A and Tom Holland on screen thought the same thing, because Tom Holland says, "Look, I'll come back after it's done." He takes Doctor Strange's ring, and he's like, "Look, I'll come back after I figure this out," and Doctor Strange is like, "Ah, fuck, damn it." So Because remember, without the time ring, there's nothing he can really do, right? It's hard for him to use his powers. So we see Peter. Peter, me, like I said, me and Peter are thinking the same thing because Peter's, kind of bragging. Well, he's not really bragging, but he's more shocked that he's like, I just beat Doctor Strange. I just beat his magic. I'm thinking the same thing because people, man, I'm just like, you gotta forget me. Peter, he has so many different powers and abilities. It's not just web fluid. He's super strong. He has Spidey sense, right? And we actually see him. He actually overpowers Doctor Strange in their fight. I was shocked. Even though this is his movie, I kind of thought that Doctor Strange would win, and Peter would have to convince Doctor Strange to let him go with his plan. But the fact that Peter is strong enough to overpower Doctor Strange's magic, it's a shocking to me. So I guess people are gonna have to change their rankings of where Peter ranks among the strongest MCU heroes. He has to be in the top five now. I'm guessing, right? I don't know. I would have to look at it, but I would guess he has to be very close to the top five and not already in there. But anyway, we get this really cool scene then of Peter talking to the villains, and Peter's like, "What if I can cure you guys?" Right? And even though the villains at first they're just like, "Nah, we're gonna take you out," Peter lets them know that I'm gonna put MJ in a safe place, and if you guys try anything, right? All she has to do is press one button, and you guys get sent back to your universe, like Strange was gonna do. And then Peter's kind of able to kind of convince them all, reluctantly. All right, it's not like we have any other choice. We don't want to be kept in a glass box, until we get sent back home. So why not give it a shot, maybe, right? So then we see Peter. He brings all of the villains over to his apartment, right, or Happy Hogan's apartment, with all the Star Tech technology and everything, and I just love it how Doc Ock is just roasting Peter here. He's like, "What is this stupid boy gonna do? He's gonna kill us all." But what kind of science is what kind of science? He doesn't even have a lab or anything, and all of a sudden we see Peter has like this little Star Tech computer. It's like I believe it's the same thing that Peter used in Far From Home to make his red stealth suit or his red upgraded suit. If I'm right, I could be wrong, but I believe it's what he uses so that he can make the red suit. But anyway, uh, we get to a really cool scene. Aunt May, she's like talking to the villains and everything. She has a funny scene with Doc Ock where she asks Doc Ock, "Do you want fresh water or salt water?" Right? And he's like, "Because the salt water one is mom is like because you're an octopus," and Doc Ock's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Which was a funny line. And clearly, you see Doc Ock's kind of miserable because the tentacles are controlling him. So then Peter works with Green Goblin first to make Doc Ock's cure. And he to fix the chip so that Doc Ock can actually have control over the tentacles, and they're not, putting so much pressure and controlling his brains and making him miserable, right? And Doc Ock tries to fight it at first. Doc Ock's like, "I'm gonna kill you, boy. Get your dirty hands off of me. I'm gonna kill you." But then Peter's actually able to get the chip in, and we see Doc Ock returns to the good Doc Ock. Uh, I love Doc Ock in this movie. I really do, and he says hi to Green Goblin. He's like, "I finally feel clean again. I don't have a million voices in my head, and I love it. I love it." And then as a way of thanking Peter, right? Peter who's wearing his red suit, uh, Doc Ock, I forget what he does. I believe he takes the tentacles. Oh no, I remember what he does. Remember, he still has the nanotech on his tentacles from the fight with Peter on the bridge. So he takes his tentacles and he returns the nanotech to Peter's suit, and then it gets a whole new color scheme. So now, like where the normal spider uh, emblem is, right? The emblem turns gold. The emblem turns gold to kind of represent how, uh, kind of represent Doc Ock. So we see Peter's suit changes. So uh, it's not that he gets a new suit in the movie. He really doesn't. He doesn't get a new suit to the very end of the film, which we will talk about when we get there. But at the end of the film, or not the end of the film, he doesn't really get any new suit. He uses the Iron Spider suit when he fights Doc Ock on the bridge. He uses the his red suit uh, when he fights Doctor Strange. And he used the same suit. Remember, he turned the suit inside out to fight Electro, and then uh, when Doc Ock returns the nanotech to Peter's red suit, right? It turns and changes the color scheme. So now uh, the new suit, right? His new red suit has nanotech technology, and it's gold, red, and blue. And in my opinion, I'll say this: this is my second favorite Spider-Man live action suit of all time, easily. I'm in the minority here. I feel like everyone loves the Amazing Spider-Man suit from the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Everyone loves Toby's suit, which I love those suits. Don't get me wrong, but I just love the Stark suits from these or from these Tom Holland movies. I really do, So Spider-Man. Uh, so I would say, like I said, number one to me is the black and red suit from Far From Home, and then number two is the nanotech upgraded suit in this movie with the red, gold, and blue color scheme, and definitely when this movie, or well, because I'm getting my hands on the PS5 remastered Spider-Man edition. I definitely cannot wait to play with that suit in the game. I've played Spider-Man on the PS4, one of my favorite games ever. Amazing storyline, amazing, amazing. I love that game. But definitely, when I get my hands on that, I cannot wait to play with the suits from this movie in the game. I cannot wait to do that. That's gonna be absolutely amazing. That's gonna be fun. Maybe let me know if you guys want me to do a playthrough, because I know I didn't do a playthrough of the first Spider-Man, but maybe that would be fun as hell to do. I guess let me know in the comment section if you guys want me to do a playthrough of Spider-Man PS5 on the channel. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. So we see Doc Ock gets cured. I love that scene. And then we see Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and Spider Man working together to make cures for everybody else. So that they come up with a device that is supposed to take all the electricity basically out of Electro, all right? And then we see Sandman just saying there. Sandman doesn't really need to be cured or anything like that, you know. And then we see basically things start falling off the map because the lizard. I don't know how, but for somehow the lizard was able to get in the Daily Bugle truck. I don't get that because we see that J. Jonah Jameson and people from the Daily Bugle, they're trying to get footage on Peter Parker to show that he's a villain, that he's a menace, right, and that there's things wrong with him, right. So they're basically tailing him, and they're just waiting outside to see if they can get anything on him. But all of a sudden, we see that out of nowhere, right? I forget who was it. I don't know if it was I I want to say it was Aunt May. Somebody said something to Green Goblin. Something like that. Curse would be out of it. Right? Curse would be out of you, right? And all of a sudden, Green Goblin, his personality changes. He goes back to the negative thoughts, even though he destroyed his mask from earlier, right? All the negative thoughts are coming out, and all of a sudden, we get this really really cool scene of Peter going around the room because his Spidey sense comes on, and he's looking at every villain trying to figure out, and when he figured out it's Green Goblin, it's epic, right? So all of a sudden, then Green Goblin starts talking crap. He gives that speech that we saw in the trailer. Peter, you're struggling to have everything you want. And Green Goblin's like little philosophy, right? To him, it's all about power, really. It's not about being good or being bad. It's really about power to him. his philosophy in this film, and really his philosophy really on Peter himself, it's fucking fantastic. It's out of this world. It's fantastic, you know. So Peter, uh, so then we get the epic fight scene. I forget how it begins, right? I believe. Oh yeah, I get what it is. I think I remember. So right as Electro's thing is about to take all the electricity out of him, he rips it out because he looks at Green Goblin like you should not be controlled, right? And then we get this big battle, this huge battle, and basically it's Peter and Doc Ock against the Green Goblin. Uh, uh, what is it? The Green Goblin, Electro, and Sandman, right? And basically, I love how they let William Dafoe do the action scenes here. So uh, Electro throws Doc Ock out of the building, and that's pretty much all we see of them until later when we get to the final battle, and we see Sandman gets away as well, right? And then uh, I forget. Yeah, there's so oh yeah, it's Lizard. Yeah, I forgot. Lizard was like I said. Lizard was like I said. So much happens in this movie. I'm doing this in one take. Lizard comes out. Lizard comes out of the Daily Bugle truck, and like J. Jonah Jameson is absolutely shocked, right? And then we get this really awesome. This the fight choreography here is so great. It's so much different from all the Spider-Man films that we've already seen. But the fight choreography is so great. So we see Peter tells Aunt May to leave the building, right? But Aunt May, she's having trouble getting out of the building because Electro cuts the electricity in the building, so she can't use the elevator, and so she's basically having to take the stairs, trying to get away. And we're getting this awesome stuff. William DeFleur is throwing hands with Tom Holland's Peter Parker, throwing him around like it's a wrestling match. And he's just talking shit. And we're seeing that Lizard is getting his shots. There's like a really cool scene where Lizard and Green Goblin do like an epic team up on Tom Holland. Tom gets his ass kicked in this movie, especially during this scene. And we just see, Green Goblin's just talking crap. Like, oh, you have such great, you have such great power, but you don't know how to use it, right? So that's, oh my gosh, such epic stuff here from William Defoe, right? I think there was a scene where William Defoe did like a power or did like a spine buster. If you guys have seen wrestling, right? If you guys are subscribed to this channel, you guys know what I'm talking about. He does a triple A spine buster that sends Tom Holland falling down the building. And we see that J. Jonah Jameson and the David Booger are actually able to get some of this footage, right? Peter fighting outside against the Lizard and him fighting against Green Goblin. So they end on the first floor. They end up on the first floor, and uh, we see then that Green Goblin Green Goblin's there. It's Green Goblin, Peter, and Aunt May. And Aunt May, she doesn't have any weapons, nothing. But she's not there. But she's not leaving. She refuses to leave Peter behind. And we see this Green Goblin choking the life out of Peter, and there's nothing Peter can do. There's really nothing Peter can do. But we see Aunt May comes behind Green Goblin and gives him the injection that's supposed to cure his personality thing, but it doesn't. It doesn't work. I guess they weren't able to get the right thing, or not. The full dose wasn't able to get in, right? But then Peter's just helpless at this point. There's nothing he can do. He's bloody and he's beating up. He's beaten up. So then, Willem Dafoe is still talking crap, right? And Willem Dafoe's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be responsible for your aunt's death." And all of a sudden, you see the glider from outside. You see the glider, and uh, you see the glider, and it nails Aunt May. And when my theater saw this, we were like, oh shit, no, no. This is, and then we were like, oh, this is the big death, right? Because throughout the first couple Spider-Man films, Tom Holland hasn't lost anybody, right? We know Toby lost Uncle Ben. That was his big loss. Andrew lost Gwen Stacy. Tom Holland's Peter hasn't had to really deal with that, you know. So you knew with this film there was going to be at least one big death. I honestly thought it was probably going to be Happy. You know, I thought they were going to keep Aunt May. You know, especially since we've never seen Aunt May die in a live action film. Uh, you know, I thought there was maybe a chance maybe Ned or MJ could die, right? I thought Happy Hogan would probably be the most logical choice. But you know, instead they did the one that really no one expected, and it's Aunt May. And this scene is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because then after that, you know, Green Goblin has a Goblin bomb and he throws it at Aunt May, and then you see a big explosion happens, right? So then they leave, and then you see this, you know, what, like SWAT team members, police officers, they're surrounding the building, right? And at first, you know, it looks like Ame is okay. She's actually able to get up on her own power, really, and it looks like she's okay, right? But all of a sudden, you know, you could clearly see she's struggling. Something's not right. Something's not right, you know? And all of a sudden, Peter knows, like, oh man, are you okay? And then Ame's just like, yeah, yeah, I'm just trying to, you know, I'm trying to catch my breath after that, right? You know, I'm trying to catch my breath. But all of a sudden, she's falling down, right? And then Peter's like, okay, we'll wait a second and we'll swing out of here, you know. Then this is heartbreaking. You, Tom notices that on Aunt May's side, she is bleeding heavily. She's bleeding heavily, and then Aunt May is talking to him, and Peter at first is like, "This is all my fault, you know. I didn't do the right thing. I should have sent them home." And Aunt May's like, "No, no, don't you say that. Don't you say that. You did the right thing. You know, you did the right thing. You tried." You know, and at least you were doing good things until the personality thing came in. And then Aunt May gives the line we have all been waiting for. I've already said it earlier in the podcast, but Aunt May finally says the line we've been waiting for. With great power comes great responsibility. Finally, we get to see that line, and it's just so powerful the way Aunt May delivers it here as she's on her deathbed, as she's dying in Peter's arms. So then it happens, and then just to see how Tom Holland just breaks down in tears, like he kisses Aunt May on the forehead, and then you see Happy arrive on the scene, and then Happy gets arrested. Happy gets arrested. Where he didn't do anything, but he gets arrested, and you see Happy. He looks inside and he sees that, you know, Peter's there and that Aunt May's gone, right? And then, but then Happy's just yelling, "Peter, you gotta get out of here! You gotta get out of here! Run!" But Peter's just so shocked and so distraught, just seeing his Aunt May die in front of him. The way Tom Holland acted this scene was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible job by Tom Holland here. So, uh, so he delivers the scene, right? And because he's so in distraught, his spider sense doesn't come up, and he actually gets shot in the shoulder, and you get to see the tears on his face. And then right when the cops come in, or when the police when the SWAT members come in with the guns, they see that no that he Peter's gone. Peter is gone, and then J. Jonah Jameson makes another video saying how this is all Spider-Man's fault. Wherever he goes, chaos and disaster happen. And then uh, they confirm that one person's dead. I don't remember if they revealed who it was, that it was Aunt May, but you know, they do reveal that it's dead. So then I think I mentioned this earlier. So before Peter took all the villains, oh yeah, I did know this. I did mention the box with MJ, but P MJ and Ned are now at Ned's house, and then you know they're like they haven't heard anything from Peter, and Zendaya's now thinking, or MJ's now thinking, oh, you know, I'm gonna press the button. I'm gonna send them all back home. We have not heard from Peter, so we gotta do something, right? But instead, Ned's like, don't do it yet. Let's try something. And then Ned, who has Doctor Strange's magic ring, right? He starts doing magic, and they're just like, find Peter Parker. And then Ned's actually able to open a hole and hoping that it is Peter Parker, right? Hoping that it's their Peter, Tom Holland's Peter Parker. Instead, we see a Spider-Man off in the distance in an alleyway. And right away, my friend Nate, who went with me to the theater, right? I recognized it right away as well. You could tell that it wasn't Tom Holland. You could tell right away. You could tell that this Spider-Man was a little bit taller, right, and that his mask was different. But Ned and MJ call out to him, and then he comes running in, and it is Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man from the Amazing Spider-Man series. And this is what's great because a lot of us thought that we would only see uh, Toby and Andrew's Spider-Man near the end at the final battle. Like they would make a small cameo. Actually, they play a much bigger role in this film than suspected. It's not, it's not like they came in for one day and shot a couple scenes and that was it. They play a significant role in this film, in this, especially in the second half. The last hour of the film, they are everywhere. They are everywhere, and that is awesome. Instead of a small cameo, we actually get to see they play a huge role here. So we see Andrew Spider-Man come in. He introduces himself. Ned and MJ are in shock, of course. This is great, right? And Andrew really kind of plays the comedic role out of all three Spider-Mans here. He's the emotion and he brings a lot of the comedy. So Andrew's like, I'm in their universe, right? So Andrew's able to figure it out pretty much right away. He noticed how something was happening and how he was trying to, kind of get here. You know, so Andrew was able to figure out about the multiverse pretty damn quick. And then there's this funny scenes with Ned's grandma speaking in a I forget what I don't know if it was I think it was Spanish. But anyway, she's like speaking different languages, or speaking languages because Andrew he has to prove to MJ and Ned that he is Spider Man just from a different universe, right? Which is hilarious, like that a pretty hilarious scene because uh what is it? Andrew Spider Man is like, do I really got to do this? Really got to do this? But he doesn't, and then they try again to find Peter, and then Tobey Maguire shows up. Oh my gosh, I lost my mind because this is my man. I like Andrew Garfield's Spider Man. You guys know this, but this is my man right here. This is my bro, the OG himself, the one I grew up with when I was young in grade school. Tobey Maguire shows up, and you can tell he does look older. He's not old or anything, but you can tell he's not as young as he looked in those early Spider Man movies. I know Toby's like only about I think he's in his mid 40s if I'm correct, but he does look older here. He does play a really good job of playing the older Spider Man. The more experienced one. With all the wisdom and the insights. So Toby comes in, and then Toby's like, "I've been trying to get in contact with your friend, right? With your Spider Man. Trying to figure out what's going on." And then Andrew and Toby meet and they have this epic confrontation. And I said earlier, the chemistry between the three Spider-Mans in this movie is fantastic. Especially Toby and Andrew's chemistry. Their chemistry is, mwah, the best out of all the Spider-Mans we see. So we see a funny scene like they web each other a little bit, right? Just to prove to each other that they are Spider-Man you know. And then uh, they get explained the situation to them, and they're like, is your Peter probably he probably went somewhere to think." And it's great because Andrew and Toby are they're trading where they would go to think, when they were going through tough times, and and it's like different buildings in New York. Like for Andrews, it was like the Empire State Building. Uh, Toby's was somewhere else, and then they go to Tom Holland's place, and it's a school. It's the rooftop of the school where we saw Tom and Zendaya hanging out at the beginning of the film, right? And oh my gosh, when uh, when MJ and Ned come up to him, we just see Tom break down in tears, super emotional. He's absolutely heartbroken over Aunt May's death. Fantastic, stellar acting here from Tom Holland. Uh, so then we see that they revealed, Peter sees the other two Spider Mans, right? So for the first time, Tom is meeting Toby's Spider Man and Andrew's, and then Toby apologizes for what happened to May. And at first, Tom's like, "You don't know, that you can't possibly know what it's like and what I'm going through. You can't know at all." But then Andrew and Toby then explain what they went through. Toby explains what happened to Uncle Ben and how he wanted to kill Uncle Ben's murderer, but how it didn't do anything for him, nothing at all. It just made things a lot worse, right? And I want you guys to remember that big murder line by Toby because it plays a big role later in the film, a huge role later. And then Andrew was the one that got me, right? Toby did a great job with his explanation, but Andrews was the one that really got you the tears because he it talks about Gwen and how he couldn't save her, right? And how it put him punches, how how long it took him just to keep going. And guys got to remember here in Toby and Andrew's universes, there's no Avengers, there's no other heroes. It's just them. They don't even have like a Miles Morales or a Spider Gwen really. They don't really have a Happy Hogan, right? They both have their Aunt Mays, but that's about it. That's about it. So it's actually kind of sad that they have nobody, right? They're pretty much by themselves. They've had to deal with all this stuff on their own. So Peter, uh, so they're explaining their stories, and Angela was very very emotional. Really, how he was talking about Gwen Stacy and how when oh my god, I remember when he says Gwen was my MJ. Woof, man, that hit hard. Man, that hit deep. That hit deep. So then we see that Tom's realizing like, damn, I can connect with these guys, right? I can connect with these guys. And then all three agreed that what they got to do is they got to find a cure. That's what they do. And then we get this epic scene of them all in the lab working together to find a cure. And we get some pretty cool stuff. I love my favorite part here was when Toby showed up how his webs come straight out of him. He doesn't have to use web shooters like Andrew and Tom's does. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Like that was a really cool moment uh, of Toby being the OG, right? So they're making the antidotes and everything like that. They're talking about little things here and there. Zendaya has another really cool scene with with Tom's Peter, right? And I remember, I just want to say, you guys hear me say their real actor names a lot, like when I'm talking about Tom's Peter and then Toby's Peter and Andrew, just because it makes it easier, because remember they're all playing Peter Parker, so it's kind of easier just to say, oh, Andrew tells Tom this, or so. Uh, there's a really cool scene with, like I said, MJ and Tom's Peter Parker. Like I said, their chemistry is off the charts here, and basically, you see Toby and Andrew looking on, and Toby and you can see Andrew's kind of heartbroken. He's still jealous because he doesn't have that anymore because Gwen's of course gone, uh, in his universe, right? And then Andrew asks Toby, "Do you have that?" And then it's revealed, as Toby reveals, that it was tough. You know, it's not easy being Spider-Man and having a personal life, right? And we know that, of course, that's one of Peter's biggest things. You know, balancing his personal life and being Spider-Man. We see that uh, Toby tells Andrew that basically him and MJ worked it out, right? They were worked out because remember at the end of Spider-Man 3, you know, it's kind of left up in the air if they ended up together. But you know, Toby reveals because remember this is 2021. It's not 2007 anymore. Toby's been Spider Man for all these years. Same thing with Andrew, right? In their respective universes. Uh, Toby reveals that he and MJ were able to work it out, which is great. I think the icing on the cake would have been if he had revealed that they had eventually had a kid, you know. But you know, you can't get everything, but still, it was really good to see or hear how you know MJ and Toby's were able to end up you know together in their universe, right? So as they're making the thing, we then uh, they're like, how are we gonna lure these guys to get the cure? And then we see them pick the Statue of Living of Liberty, right? And what's really cool is that we get to see this really live in New York, right? As everybody's you know walking on the street, going home for the day. We see on the big board, basically Tom calls in to J. Jonah Jameson, and he has his FaceTime on, right? And he apologizes to everybody for the mess he's caused, but how he plans to fix it, and uh, fix the neighborhood. So really, really good stuff by Tom Holland here. Really cool stuff. I liked how they had him FaceTime and you know they had that on all of the big screens and everything like that. That's not easy to do right there. That's not easy to do. But it's getting late, man. You know it's almost 4 a.m. and I'm still recording. You guys better like this video and you know show love to it, man. I'm going ham for you guys. I'm gonna give you guys the in-depth review. So then we see them get ready for battle. So we see them on the Statue of Liberty, and they're talking, you know, and they're just talking about different things. They talk about you know what villains they fought, right? They talk a little bit more about how Andrew has doesn't have wet fluid that comes out of him, right? And Andrew's like, this is so cool, man. You know, I've always wanted to have brothers, which is really cool, really really cool. You know, like I said, Andrew brings that emotional, comedic side. You know, to kind of calm things down. But still, oh gosh, great. You know, great stuff here between Toby and Andrew. Really, there's a part where Andrew actually cracks Toby's back. I like that because it's almost like you know Toby's a little bit older. He's been doing it longer, right? So I like that Toby being more of the elder statesman here. So basically, after a little bit of talking, they know that the villains have arrived, and this is when things go to hell. You know, things just go to hell, and we see that basically, the plan is Toby and Andrew they have different places to lure the villains so that Tom can get the cure to them, but he can't. He can't. Something's not right. So we see then their coordination is all off. They've never worked together, so they're just running into each other's webs, punching each other a little bit. So then basically we see the three of them meet back up, and they're just like, "What's going on?" Right? And like I said, Toby and Andrew are like, "Oh, we've never been in teams before," and so then Tom's like, "Oh, I'm not trying to brag, but I was in the Avengers, right?" And remember, you said he was in the Avengers because there hasn't been no Avengers since Endgame. You know, remember all the Avengers are all either on vacation or off somewhere else on some other island, on some other planet, doing whatever, you know. So Tom tells him about that, and Toby gives one of the funniest lines of the film. He's like, "The Avengers? That's great. What the hell is that? What you know?" And Tom's like, "Wait, what? You guys don't have the Avengers in your world?" You know? And they're like, "Nope." And then Andrew's like, "Are you in a band? Are you in a band? Are they a band?" So, really funny stuff here. So eventually they are to get back on track, and they decide, all right, let's just pick one target at a time, right? If we pick one target at a time, it'll be a lot easier for us. So after they come up with a plan to take down each villain at once, we see that Andrew's like, "I love you guys," and they're just like, "Thank you," because they haven't known each other that long. But I guess that that connection, especially for Andrew. Andrew's like, "I've never had brothers before." Like how awesome this is, and it's also like you guys gotta remember, it was like Andrew was the one. Toby was always the one that never really said anything about doing another Spider-Man. We've heard the rumors about Spider-Man 4 and how, it just never came to fruition. But, plus Toby's not that big on social media. I don't even think Toby has any social media. But Andrew's the one that's been pretty vocal and now in interviews how he never really wanted to return to being in the superhero world. That it just wasn't his favorite experience, right? But you just see Andrew just doing a bunch of comedy here, and it's just hilarious. It really is hilarious. But then we get in my opinion, what I think may go down as the most epic MCU moment outside of the portals moment from Avengers Endgame and Captain America telling the Avengers to assemble, and also maybe outside of like the elevator scene, the airport battle, right? Uh, Black Panther's Wakanda Forever uh, chant to start the battle in Infinity War, right? Tony Stark using the Infinity Stones, right? This is, I think, will go down as one of the most epic MCU moments. It's gonna be right up there. We see finally, basically the three Spider Mans, and Andrew, Tom, and Toby, they fly off a building together, just yelling. They're like, "Woohoo!" And they're swinging together. And you got the MCU theme playing in the background, like, dun, 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 dun. And they're swinging together. They're swinging off each other. It is epic. I love this. Love this. So they're getting their coordination down. And we see them land together in an epic shot of all three Spider-Man with their with their masks on, ready for battle, right? Ready to start working together. And then we get the money shot of all three of them flying to fight Electro, Sandman, and Lizard, right? And then one by one, they're able to cure each villain. We get some funny stuff here with Andrew, like how he meets back with Mark, like, "Hey, Mark, how you doing, buddy?" And then Andrew's also when he meets Lizard, he's like, "Dr. Connors, how we doing?" And Lizard's like, "Hello, Peter." Oh my gosh. And we get Toby and Sandman interactions, right? So we get some really cool stuff of like how they're working together to coordinate their attacks to cure each villain. Really good stuff. We see also like the Lizard. He goes into the portal where MJ and Ned are because they can't. The magic isn't working. They haven't been able to close it. So Lizard's like chasing them around. Uh, Lizard's chasing them around, and then Toby goes. Tom goes after them to try to keep them away, right? And then eventually, I'm trying to remember because so much happens with this final battle. Eventually, if I remember correctly, if I remember the ordering of events here, we see the boxes going back and forth, and what I believe, yeah, and what I believe is another epic scene from this film. We see, like in the trailer, we see the Captain America shield that's on the Statue of Liberty, right? We see it falls down to the ground, and of course we see MJ fall off it, right? So Tom goes to save her, but right at that moment, the Green Goblin arrives on the battlefield. He finally arrives on the battlefield, and he's like, "Peter, Peter, come to play." Right. So we see Green Goblin. Uh, he scoops Peter away, and then we see Andrew get redemption for not being able to save Gwen at the end of the Amazing Spider-Man 2. He goes flying after Zendaya's MJ, and he's able to catch her, right? And you can just feel the emotion because you look, Zendaya is thanking Andrew, and then Andrew's like, "Are you okay?" MJ's like, "I'm okay." "Are you okay?" And then Andrew's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." Right. So then we see the Green Goblins there, uh, but then we see Doc Ock come out, and it looks like Doc Ock at first is going to be on Electro's side, but he uses his tentacles. Actually, remember, he still has the chip. So Doc Ock is back to being a good guy, and he grabs the tentacles. Using his tentacles, he's able to rip the arc reactor off of he's able to rip the arc reactor off of Electro, uh, bringing Electro back to norm. He rips the arc reactor off of Electro, and then he puts the device on that's supposed to suck all the electricity out of Electro's body. Pretty cool stuff. So I love how Doctor Ock gets his full redemption here, turning back into a good guy. I love it. I love it. Like I said, Doc Ock is incredible here. So we see Sandman gets cured. We yeah, I think Sandman gets cured where he gets the sand removed from him. We see Lizard get cured. We see Doc Ock was already cured earlier. Who else am I forgetting? Trying to think. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Oh, yeah, Electro. So Electro, Doc Ock, Lizard, and Sandman have all been cured at this point, right? And then we see as the battle continues a little bit, we see Toby, Andrew, and Tom. Like I said, man, it's hard just doing this podcast in one shot. I gotta remember everything. We see them standing on the bridge, and then we see Doctor Strange finally comes back, right? And I think it was Ned who was able to get. Yeah, Ned uses a portal to finally free Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange reveals that he's been on a canyon for 12 hours, and we get a hilarious line from Andrew. Andrew's like, "You were at the Grand Canyon for 12 hours when we were dealing with this shit. Where the hell were you? We could have used your help," which is hilarious, right? And then Ned tries to explain to Doctor Strange how Peter had actually it looks like Peter Pan is actually working, right? But then even though Doctor Strange is like, all right, I like okay, but we gotta end this. Still the longer they're here, the more dangerous it becomes. And remember, you guys remember those leak images that came out of the film? We see that the leak image was actually true. It was Andrew, Tom, and Toby in that image. The only difference was that uh, Tom had a different suit. Tom had the suit he has in this movie. He had his red, gold, and blue suit, right? So I'm guessing when that leak image leaked, right? I guess the movie was still in post production. They hadn't edited it yet. They hadn't edited it in yet, but still, it was great to see that the leak image was actually 100% factual, 100% factual. So then we get the big final battle, really, right? With everybody being cured, it is now really up to ending Green Goblin, and then Green Goblin and Peter end up on Captain America's shield, which is a great location for a final battle, right? And Doc Ock's talking his crap. Not Doc Ock. Green Goblin's talking his crap, but Peter. If you guys have seen Dragon Ball Z, if you guys have seen Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Z kind of final chapters, Gohan, Ultimate Gohan, when he goes to fight Majin Buu, right? Majin Buu asks, "What are you doing here? You think you're gonna beat me?" Gohan says, "Beat you? No, I'm gonna kill you." One of Gohan's best lines ever from Dragon Ball, arguably maybe his best. But then we see Peter give something like that. Peter's like, "No, I just want to kill you." And then this is the dark side of Peter Parker we've been waiting for. Because you'll rarely ever see it. You see Peter get emotional. You see all the crap he has to deal with in his life. But, and every once in a while you may see him yell in an apartment or anything like that. But when do you ever get to see angry Peter Parker in action? Like, angry. It's not that often. So, Peter has this angry look on his face. And then we get this epic scene. This outside of the three live action spiders swinging together, this is probably my favorite scene from the movie. There is so many cool scenes, but this is my favorite scene from the movie by far. We see Tom and Green Goblin just boxing it out. They are boxing. They're both throwing hands at each other. I was really, really impressed. I was really impressed when we defer Defoe. I know he had a stunt double for some of this, but I was really impressed that he was actually able to get a good amount of the action in, right? But this scene is just so epic. Tom, just in anger, right, for what Green Goblin did to his Aunt May, he just, oh, he just lays the smack it down. He lays the smack down on this guy's ass, throwing hooks, uppercuts. And I remember seeing this, I'm just like, damn, 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 get his ass, get his ass, damn, okay, Peter, okay, Peter. I'm like, shit. There was a point where Tom did a Batista bomb. For my wrestling fans, he does a straight up Batista bomb on this guy. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, what the hell? I was like, let's get it. Like, ooh. Now this movie was making me. I know like Sasha Banks, the best female wrestler in the world. She was at the Spiderman premiere. Don't know what that means. I don't know if WWE has a partnership now with Marvel Studios or Disney Plus or whatever. But ooh man, that was interesting. But yeah, this scene is epic. This Peter just being the shit out of Green Goblin, right? And we see Peter grabs the Peter grabs the glider and he's about to kill Green Goblin, right? And then we see MJ, Zendaya, Doctor Strange, and the other two Peters. They're shocked. They're like, "Is he gonna do this?" And then all you see is Tom Holland. I mean, as Tom is about to kill Green Goblin, Toby stops him. Epic scene. And it's like there's just so much because you guys remember how Green Goblin died in the first Spider-Man movie. How Toby jumped out of the way right in the nick of time, and then Green Goblin impaled himself. Right. So, uh, so much good stuff here. So, Tom, I just love how Toby was just standing there, just staring at him for like a good 30 seconds. It's like he knew. He was like, "No, don't do this. Don't do this." Right. And you know at first Tom just he says he's in anger and rage, but then Toby had his back turned to the Green Goblin, and the Green Goblin stabs Peter. I almost fell on my seat when I saw this, like, because I've told you guys already how much of a fan of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man I am. I thought for a second they were gonna kill him. I was like, because I've been thinking for months. I was like, are they potentially gonna kill a Spider-Man in this movie? Right? But I was also thinking, how much would they fuck up the multiverse if they didn't change it? Like that would disrupt timelines all the way. So, uh, So basically, we get to see Toby get stabbed, and I'm just like, no, no, and he falls to the floor where he is for the rest of the battle, and then Green Goblin talking more shit, saying, "Look, Peter, you even got yourself killed, literally." And then it looks like Peter, who still has the look on his face like he wants to kill him, he doesn't. Instead, he is able to inject the full serum into the Green Goblin, the full serum this time, and it is an absolute success. It is a full on success, uh, and the Green Goblin's personality erases, and he's back to his normal self, and he's absolutely shocked. He's absolutely shocked. He doesn't really understand how this could happen to him, and that's about that when it comes to the Green Goblin. So at this point, you're thinking, right? Oh yeah, this is gonna be a nice ending. Everybody's gonna go back home. And basically everybody's been cured at this rate. Let's go home. But it's not that easy. It's not that easy because all of a sudden you see Doctor Strange. He's fighting off all these different rifts in the sky, which looks like different timelines, right? And what the timelines is in this case are mainly people that know who Peter Parker is, right? Remember, because the spaz has not been fixed yet. So, uh, they're trying to figure out what to do, and then Peter. This is the big moment of the film. Peter suggests that they go to the wish. They go through with the wish. That'd be the only way to fix everything. And in the riff, like I know I saw Rhino in there, and I'm assuming they were, if that ever happened, they were gonna be bringing in like kids and stuff like that, right? Based off it for this event. So so this is the big moment because Doctor Strange tells Peter, uh, like I said, I love how you could see how they were bringing back, you bring in all the different villains from all the other universes. It was like crazy, but Tom, Peter tells Strange to do the wish, right? Make everyone forget who I am. But Strange is like everyone will forget who you are. Like there would be nobody that remembers you. People will remember Spider-Man, but it would be like you never existed, right? So it's like Peter would always have to start his life over again. So at the beginning of the movie, he had gotten used to people knowing his identity up until it caused Zendaya and MJ not to, or yeah, MJ and Ned did not be able to get into MIT. But here, that's different. So, uh, so he agrees with Strange to let him go, to make the wish happen. And you can see it pains Strange because Strange no longer gonna be able to have that friendly dialect he had with Spider-Man before. All the times where Strange would tell Peter, "Don't call me sir, call me this, call me that," right? So Strange has this sad look on his face, like he doesn't want to forget Peter, but he understands it's the only way to fix things. And I like how Doctor Strange in this movie, he's not there to fight the villains. It's more like, and they didn't even really do that with Iron Man. When Iron Man was in the Spider-Man movie, they in on what was it, Homecoming. Iron Man doesn't fight the villains. They're there as mentors, right? Really, but you know, they don't fight the villains. They let Spider Man handle his own business for the most part, which I do enjoy, by the way. So then, then Doctor Strange tells Peter, go tell his loved ones, right? Go tell them that, this is it. Say your goodbyes. So Peter goes up to the other two Peter Parkers, Andrew and Tom, or not Andrew and Tom, Andrew and Toby, right? And Toby is on his 2 feet, and it looks like he'll be okay, but he is in a lot of pain, right? So Tom thanks them, and then we get an epic moment of them hugging. I'm just like, I really want to see more of these guys. I really hope that maybe in the next trilogy, maybe like Spider-Man 6, right? We get to see them return one more time with even maybe even more Spider-Mans. Maybe like have an Avengers type final battle with just Spider-Mans crawling around. How great would that be, right? Have a Spider-Man day at Polar Park one day. That's something we should do. We should honestly do that. But uh I love the hug scene between the three Spider-Mans. Like that was great. That was great. You know, uh, and Toby said, "This is what we do. Don't ever forget that." So then we get Tom going to talk to MJ and Ned, and this is a heartbreaking scene because, like I said, these two have been with Peter since the beginning. Really, you know, friends of Spider-Man. They knew and they defended their boy uh, through everything, through thick and thin. And now, when Peter tells them that they're going to forget about him and how there's no choice, it breaks my heart to see how Zendaya acts. And then you get this last scene where Peter daps up Ned for the last time, and then Peter's telling them both like how he will find him, and he'll explain. No matter if they don't know him, he'll explain, and hopefully somehow things will be made right. But I like that. And then Toby and Zendaya have one more epic scene here with while Zendaya has her memories, and it ends up being a kiss scene. And it was this was an emotional kiss scene because they're talking about how they love each other and all this stuff, man. And this is heartbreaking. The tears on Zendaya's face here, the tears on Tom Holland's face, how they're how Zendaya's gonna forget or how MJ's gonna forget everything that they just went through. So they have a really passionate moment and a really passionate kiss. And after that, you just see uh, Tom looking at them one last look, right? Heartbreak gets up, and then he swings away. Doctor Strange does the wish. He does the wish, or does the spell. I don't know why I'm saying wish. It's probably late. I want to go to bed. Anyway, he does the wish, and all of a sudden, we Strange looking around like, and Zendaya or not Zendaya, MJ's like, and that's we come back, and then now it's winter time. It's winter time. We see, and this is when it gets even more heartbreaking, man. We see Peter Parker. Peter goes into a store where MJ works, and he sees MJ, and he's in absolute, awe of her beauty. It's been a couple weeks. Remember that it's been a couple weeks since uh, since the battle has taken place, and he sees MJ, but MJ doesn't remember him. Same thing with Ned, and we learned that both Ned and MJ have gone into MIT, right? But unfortunately, Peter hasn't because Peter is technically a nobody. Nobody knows who he is. So I believe he's not in school or anything like that. Nobody knows who he is. So MJ doesn't recognize him, right? And Peter has like this whole little speech in his pocket of what he wants to say to MJ, but uh, he doesn't really say most of it, But he's able to have a little bit of a conversation with her, and because he knows MJ so well, he's actually able to finish some of her sentences, right? Which kind of surprises MJ because, of course, MJ's not supposed to know him, right? Even like MJ has like a bandage from the battle from Statue of Liberty, and they uh, and then Peter is like, how does it hurt? And then he's like, no, not really, not as much anymore, right? But and then Peter looks like Peter is about to ask MJ out again, right? Or at least ask for a number or something like that. But instead, Peter puts the thing away, and he's like, "See you later," right? And it looks like Zendaya is thinking like, "Who was that guy?" Right? And this is what it broke because it was like it was almost telling me like this is a wrap, this is it, for at least for Peter Parker and MJ, right? They didn't break up on bad terms. They had to call it quits because they just don't know each other anymore. Well, Tom or yeah, Peter Parker, Tom's Peter's gonna remember everything that they went through, but because of the spell, NJ and Ned don't, just like everybody else. So, if they are gonna have another Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland starring, it looks like they may go in a different direction. Maybe introduce the MCU's Gwen Stacy or somebody else, but it does look like they're gonna go into a different direction here, with Tom Holland's Peter Parker. Which is sad. But if it is, Zendaya did a fantastic job of playing MJ. Fantastic job of playing MJ. I hope I'm wrong, but it does really it does speak volume based off the way that movie ended. So like it looks like they may want to start fresh. They've had MJ the last three movies, and Ned, so it's almost like a restart button, right? So then we see Tom go over to Aunt May's grave, and we see Happy's there with him, but Happy doesn't know who he is, right? Happy just says, "Oh, I'm a friend of Spider-Man." That's how he met May, and then Tom says the same thing. So it's almost like they do remember a little bit. They remember Spider-Man, right? Happy remembers Spider-Man, and his interactions with him, but they don't know who Peter is. Nobody knows who Peter is under the mask. So and it was heartbreaking because it seems like now this was the first time we've seen Peter's, or we've seen we've seen Peter at the gravesite. We know, of course, in Spider-Man 1, with Peter and Uncle Ben. We know the Amazing Spider-Man when he was at Gwen Stacy's funeral, and now we have Tom Holland. We have Tom Holland, and the only thing that this scene was missing was if they had Tom Holland show up in a suit. That would have been the icing on the cake right there. That would have been the icing on the cake. But anyway, it was fine. But excuse me. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. So then Tom, uh, yeah, but then we see Tom and Happy. They have a very emotional conversation. Happy tries to give Tom some advice. Tom takes it, and then Happy, or no, one of them walks away. And then going into the last two scenes of the movie, we get to see how this becomes a full Peter Parker story, right? We see now, of course, now that Aunt May's gone, right? Peter's on his own. He does have Uncle Ben, even though Uncle Ben, uh, in the MCU, right, doesn't really have much of a major impact on Tom's life, all right, on Pete's life. He doesn't have too much of an impact. It's more Aunt May. And remember, Pete's not on his own because he has nobody. He legitimately has nobody on his side, or not his side, just nobody. Nobody knows he's Spider Man anymore. It's like he never existed. And then we see Peter. He's in this new one bedroom apartment, super small. It reminded me so much of Tobey Maguire's, uh, and how his room was when he played Spider Man in the first couple of Spider Man movies. It also really reminded me a lot of the opening scene from Spider Man PS4, for those of you who have played the game. Really did. I like the retouch for it. I like the way the room works. Uh, but it's one bedroom, right? And it's almost like it's supposed to suck, you know? And we also see he has a GED bag. But as smart as Peter is, we know he could make it to be a top scientist, right? Because not nobody knows him, it's like he has to start over. He has to completely start over. So and then getting to see how his life is now. Nobody knows him. He's pretty much on his own, right? He doesn't have Tony Stark. Tony Stark's gone. The Avengers wouldn't recognize him. So he's gonna basically have to reintroduce himself to all the Avengers again. Probably when we get to the Avengers 5, and then it just sucks. You see him now with the GED book, and now it's gonna be a little bit of a struggle for him. You know, and it sets up perfectly. They really do set it up perfectly because let's be serious. But Tom's Peter Parker in the MCU has had it made. He had the huge friendship with Tony Stark. He was in the Avengers, right? He got the girl. For the most part, he's had it easy, and it's kind of goes along with the theme of being in high school, taking it easy for the most part, not having too many crazy burdens. But now we're seeing now based off the sacrifice he made. Now Tom is having to make his own burdens. He's having to make his own food. He's in a 1 bedroom apartment, right? He has to study for GED, even though he should be in a graduate's program. But you know, this is what comes at the cost of making. This is what's being sacrificed, or sacrificial means. This is what it do. This is what it truly means. You know, and this movie really does a great job of hitting that home. It's really important that this is the way it is. So But yeah, it just reminds me so much of Spider-Man PS4, the beginning scene where like he has to pay his bills, right? And he just has a lot of crap going down in his personal life, even though he is a more older version of Spider-Man, and his crime fighting abilities are on another level. But now Peter was supposed to be going to college, but he is entering into adulthood. He's by himself, and now he has to figure out what's next, right? And he then looks. He still has his Spider-Man suit, which it looks like he hasn't used in a couple weeks because he's just trying to figure stuff out now. And we see he grabs the suit, and one big thing that I didn't realize till after this film, he doesn't have access. It looks like to uh, the Stark Tech anymore. I guess because no one remembers him, especially Happy, right? He doesn't have access to being able to uh, use Stark stuff to uh, make his suits, which you know I'm guessing is a reset, right? We know that they're kind of resetting everything for him, because he's getting rid of a lot of his MCU baggage with the ending of the film and people forgetting who he is. But I would at least think he would still have his Iron Spider suit, and we know he should still have the upgraded suit, because that's what he swung off with it, you know, when Doctor Strange was making the spell. So I don't know. I still think in the future he still could, but maybe if they just really want to reset Tom Holland's Spider Man, right, with Peter Parker, uh, you know, with no one knowing who he is and him becoming a nobody again, really, right? You know, I guess this movie would mark the end of him using Stark Tech suits. No more nanotech, no more stuff like that. But I could be wrong. You never know. You never know. But uh, we see here, and I love this. I love this. We see that he uses a sewing machine, right? Kind of like Toby and Andrew does, and he makes a new suit. He makes basically the MCU version of the Amazing Spider-Man suit, right? Yeah, he makes this amazing suit. It's awesome, and basically the way my boy Nate described it to me, I completely agree with him. It's almost like he took what he saw Toby and Andrew had and he made his own version. It's like the color scheme and everything. So we see the movie ends with with Tom swinging through New York right next to the Empire State Building, and now it's wintertime. He's swinging through New York in this new suit that looks like, comic book accurate. We used to always say that the Stark suit was very accurate. It was basically the classic Spider-Man suit, but more with a Tony Stark Iron Man feel. But now, with the sewing machine and everything, this is not the Stark suit. This is way more of a classic Spider-Man suit, right? Made from the sewing machine that has a color scheme that represents basically what Toby and Andrew wore, right? And it's almost like, all right, this is the new Tom Holland. This is the new Peter Parker for the next trilogy. This is the new reset, right? If we're gonna reset, Peter Parker and everything that he's really done in the MCU so far, with everybody forgetting about him, let's just, give him a new suit as a reset, right? Like I said, I hope in the future we still get to see him use uh, his uh, his upgraded suit and his Iron Spider suit. But if this is the end of it, it was a great run. It was an amazing one. I love those suits, but I would love to see him get to use those again. But that's how the movie ends. We get to see hear the MCU theme one more time, and then uh, he just flies through the sky with his new suit, which looks incredible, right? Like I said, for me, the best live action suits that he's had is his red and black suit for number one, and then his upgraded suit with the nanotech, the red, gold, and the red, gold, and blue suit. I love those two suits in this film. They are absolutely incredible, right? But people are already telling me that his blue suit that you see for 30 seconds at the end of the film may be better. You know, look, I need to see it again. It looks amazing. It looks absolutely amazing. But still, I love the suits. But that's how this film ends, with the reset of Tom Holland's Peter Parker. And like I said, we've heard a lot about Tom Holland, and what the future is. We know that there will be a Spider-Man 4. Amy Pascal from Sony says they are gearing up for another trilogy of Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. That's what they want to do. That's what the reset does. They want to do a new three movies. This movie is supposed to be the end of the Homecoming trilogy, and it makes sense. Everything they've done with MJ, with Ned, or, Aunt May, all these characters. This was a perfect way to end the trilogy, right? It was sad, it was emotional, it was funny, it was epic. There's so many good things to say about it. But now they're ready for the next trilogy, and there's so many things they can do now. So many things. They've basically reset it. And in the MCU, it's hard to reset things. We've heard in the past how Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, how they could kind of wish they could sometimes have a reset. And maybe that's what have had them come back to do more movies. But, you know, uh, it's hard to do that. But the thing about it is, with this movie, what makes this movie so great is it's an end not just for the Homecoming trilogy, right? It's more an end for the entire Spider-Man live action franchise. They pretty much fixed a lot of the issues with the past Spider-Man movies. They fixed it almost. This was a great way to end Tobey Maguire's era of Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's era of Spider-Man, right? All the villains get cured. So we don't get to see what happens when they go back to their universes, but you can guess, right? Norman's now a good guy again. Otto is now a good guy again. Sandman goes back to his daughter, right? So basically, things are much better for Peter in his universe. Maybe Peter and Otto start working together, in that universe to do good. And in Andrew's universe, right, the lizard gets cured. And we also see that Electro, he gets cured as well. So now we can see if Andrew's Spider-Man wants to work with those two. We don't know. But definitely, it was a great way to wrap up Toby and Andrew's story. It fixed, some of those plot lines and give those characters justice, those villains justice, right? And now with Tom Holland's Spider Man, they've reset everything. They wrapped up the Homecoming trilogy, right? Even though it was sad that Peter had to have everybody who loved and cared about him forget him completely. But hey, now they've reset the book. Now they can do whatever they want, right? And Tom Holland has talked about how there's a possibility that he's done playing Spider Man. I don't think that's the case. I think what they're gonna do is Tom Holland's gonna take a break, right? I knowing Marvel Studios, they're gonna want to get going on the next film right away. And the thing about I think it is they need to take a little bit of a break, not because the movies are not great; they're incredible, but give Tom Holland time. If you want him to stay as the next Spider-Man, especially for the next trilogy, because I'm guessing, right? You count Avengers 5, you're going to have Tom Holland playing Spider Man for what? Another 4 movies if he chooses to, right? So, what? Avengers 5 and maybe 3 more solo films? You have so much. You don't need to rush another Spider Man film. If you want to wait a couple years, 2, 3 years, right? Or maybe even 3, 4 years, that's fine. Don't rush it. Tom Holland's been talking about how he wants to take a break, maybe have kids. I know him and Zendaya are dating. If he wants to, let him go do his thing. Give him time. The guy has probably been working his ass off and he's probably exhausted. He's only 25 years old, but he's been doing press tours. He's at all these other movies. Like, it would be now that No Way Home is out in theaters, you would hope he would be able to get a break, but he's probably gonna have to start doing press for Uncharted soon. So give the guy a break. Give the guy a little bit of a break, and then you know maybe in a year or two or whatever, then you can start putting on ideas. Tom Holland, and I agree with him. He said that he wants to have a more diverse, Spider Universe, a live action Spider Universe, because all we've had for live action Spider Man is Peter Parker's. I think whenever Tom Holland decides to step down as Spider Man, no matter if it's next year, 4 years from now, a decade from now, they need to take a break from having Peter Parkers for a while, because all we've had is 3 straight Peter Parkers, right? And it kind of you don't need so many. I think it is time that we start looking into. And remember, there's a great line in this movie that when Electro's talking to Andrew Garfield Spider Man, Electro talks about you're so kind, you help people, right? Uh, I believe I forget. I believe he said that Andrew's Spider Man is from Brooklyn, but either way, you know, uh, Electro's like, I kind of wish and thought you would be a black Spider Man. Clearly, that's a kind of a Miles Morales reference, right? I think for this next trilogy, you need to diversify the Spider-Man universe. I think it's time that if you're gonna have Tom Holland continue, right, he doesn't really need to be have a mentor anymore. I think it's time for Tom Holland to be the mentor. You've built him up over the last 6 movies he's been in. If you count the Avengers movies, right? You've built him up. I think it's time for him now to set up on his own and take what he's learned now as a high schooler and taking that into young adulthood and be a mentor. I think it's time for maybe Spider-Man 4 we bring in Miles Morales. I think maybe in Spider-Man 5 you bring in Spider-Gwen, right? Imagine if you were able to get Emma Stone. They had to do that. They gotta do it. Now that you have the multiverse, you gotta find some way to bring Emma Stone in here. Gotta get Emma Stone to be Spider Gwen somehow. I'm probably gonna make a move where I pitch what they should do for Spider-Man 4 in the next trilogy. But I'll say this as a preview: you got to diversify the Spider-Man universe. If Tom Holland decides to take a break from being Peter Parker, that's fine. He's deserved it. Let him take his time. You have so many MCU projects. I don't like. Come on, there's like what 20 at least that are in development or being filmed or in post production right now. I never will understand how he does it. But right now, focus. If Tom Holland wants to take a little break, let him take a little break. Take his break as long as you need. You have plenty of other projects. He's 25. If he wants to play the role still, let him do it. Don't burn him out to the point where he doesn't want to do it anymore. He just gave us one of the uh, um, best protagonist performances in a superhero movie. Period. I truly believe that Tom Holland in this film was absolutely incredible. So give him a break. And when he does want to come back, there's so much you can do. You can do stuff with the Black Cat. You can bring in new villains like Kraven the Hunter. You can do Mobius, right? They've already teased Venom's coming because in the post credit scene they did tease. Uh, they did tease Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock was brought into the MCU timeline. He was brought in, but what happened is uh, he was getting information and he said, "Oh, maybe it's time for me to confront this Spider-Man in New York," right? But instead, right at that moment, it looks like he got sent back to his universe, right? The same time that Doctor Strange made his spell. So then we see they get brought back to their universe, but then they leave something behind. It's a little symbiote, just a very small. So clearly, Venom is coming. So I don't know. It may not be Eddie Brock, right? But Venom will be coming eventually. Depending on how long they want to wait. But still, man, like I said, they can do whatever they want now. They've reset the Peter Parker Tom Holland character, and I think next time we do see him, right? Because I do think he's gonna come back. I just think he's gonna take some time off. Uh, I do think he's gonna take some time off. I think we're gonna next time we see Peter Parker on the screen, his life's gonna be completely different. I think he's gonna be struggling. Like maybe he's taking photos for the Daily Bugle for Jonah Jameson, just like Toby's did. I think he's gonna be struggling to pay his rent. I think we're gonna see Peter struggling a lot. I don't know if we'll see MJ in those films. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if they'll be starting to find a new love interest for Peter. I don't know. But I do expect to see um, Peter that is struggling now as he enters into adulthood. You know, will we see him in college? Maybe, you never know. But with Zend with Zendaya and or with MJ and Ned going to MIT, they're not gonna be in New York. It's not like they're gonna bring Peter to Boston. They would. I don't think they would ever do that. So yeah, I think things are gonna be a lot different next time we see uh, Peter on the big screen for Spider-Man 4. But I think this is the time when you do get Spider-Man 4. It's time, especially with the multiverse, you can do whatever you want. It's time to start bringing the Miles Morales. Whoever gets to play Miles Morales, man, in the MCU, when they do it, because it needs to happen, it's going to be a special role. Special role. And I hope they get the right guy. Uh, bring in Miles Morales, bring in Spider Gwen. That's what we gotta do. We gotta start diversifying the Spider Universe. We don't need more Peter Parkers. We need the Miles Morales. We need the Spider Gwens, and we need Peter to be more of a leader, be more of a mentor for these guys going forward. And there's still a lot of enemies you can do, and then maybe we with Spider-Man 4 and 5 we build up to another huge movie with Spider-Man 6, and maybe that would be Tom Holland's uh, final film as Spider-Man, right? And then maybe that you can bring back Andrew and Toby one last time and do an epic film. Have all three Spider-Man, have all three Peter Parkers, have uh, have Miles Morales, have Gwen Stacy do something epic, do something epic. That's the way I would do it. I don't know how they will do it. We'll just wait and find out. But that's how I would do it. That's how I would do it, man. I'll probably have a more detailed plot analysis for a potential what the next Spider-Man trilogy should be after this. But still, man, those are just details floating around my head. But absolutely incredible what we saw tonight. Absolutely incredible. And if this was Tom Holland's last movie as Spider Man, he went out with a bang. I don't think it is. I don't think it is from a long shot by a long shot, but you never know. You never know. If this was the last Tom Holland movie, they ended it perfectly, but I don't think it will. I don't see Tom Holland leaving that role anytime soon. All right, and he shouldn't. The role fits him perfectly. But incredible job by him in this movie. Incredible job by everybody. Great stuff here, man. This was easily the best Spider-Man film of all time, and in my opinion, a top three MCU films. And to me, it's not really debatable, not debatable at all. But other than that, guys, I've been talking here forever. I need to get some sleep, man. Over 2.5 hours of podcast content. Let me know in the comments section what you guys think of the film. Let me know. Give me your honest thoughts. Give me your honest thoughts. Let me know what you guys thought of Spider-Man No Way Home. Did you guys like it? Did you guys enjoy it? And what did you guys think? But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know also what you guys think is next for Tom Holland. What do you guys what do you guys want to see in the Spider-Man 4? Do you want to see Black Cat? Do like what potential villains or allies, new adventures do you want to see for Tom Holland Spider-Man going forward? Because they can do whatever they want really. There's so many cool things that they can do. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But other than that, guys, that's about all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for so very much. If you guys listened to this entire podcast episode, you guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. But thank you guys for the love and support. Other than that, guys, man, subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. Hit the bell next to my name, Fitz TV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. Thank you guys for everything. Follow me down on social media down below. Make sure you guys, if you guys saw this video and you guys haven't seen the movie yet, don't wait. Don't wait for it to be put on Disney Plus or wherever the movie eventually gets put. Go see this with your friends, your family. This is something you're going to want to experience with a crowd. Don't go where you're going to be the only one there. You want to go see this with a crowd, man. This movie is absolutely incredible, man. Like, this is one of those that you want to experience. This was probably the best movie I've seen since Avengers Endgame, and I see a lot of films, but this was absolutely amazing. There's not enough great things I can say about this movie. But let me know what you guys think, man. Thank you guys for all the love and support. I'm gonna get out of here. You guys stay safe and healthy. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.